There's a reason tripwire products sell so easily.
Fundamentally, we are still cavemen and cavewomen.
What I want to talk about next is fear. So how to write offers that appeal to subsections of the brain, trigger certain brain chemistry, really high-level stuff when it comes to copywriting and offer creation. Here's the thing. If you're selling tires in Sheboygan, do you need this? No. But you're going to kill every other tire seller in Sheboygan if you understand it. I hope that you guys use this for the best possible purpose, because you can take some of these concepts you're learning here and make people do things they ordinarily wouldn't do.
You can absolutely manipulate people into thinking that it was their idea to do things that you want them to do.
Yeah, and most people think the number one fear is the fear of failure. It's actually not. It's the number two fear. The number one fear is... Welcome back to the Trainwreck Show. Glad you guys are here. I'm Perry Belcher. I'll be one of your hosts today with Emma Rainville, the Wizard of Ops.
What's up? What's up?
I'm sort of the unstoppable force of growth, Emma being the immovable object of operations. And this is where we clash every now and then about our beliefs in certain segments of business growth, business operations, things like that. Stuff I don't know about, stuff she didn't know about, which is a lot, by the way. But usually I'm right. But we'll see today how it turns out. This is part 2 of a series on Primal Offers. Primal Offers. So how to write offers that appeal to subsections of the brain, trigger certain brain chemistry, really high-level stuff when it comes to copywriting and offer creation. I didn't even say copywriting anymore. It's more offer creation now than it is copywriting, because long-form copy isn't the only copy that works anymore. You know, your ads are copy, your videos are copy. Even your imagery and design anymore are part of the offer creation process.
Right.
Thanks for contributing. That was riveting. All right. I'll just carry the whole fucking thing. All right. Here we go. Anything else you'd like to say?
Well,
you're doing your hair and shit.
You'll just cut me off anyway, because, you know, you can't listen to another human being speak ever. But by all means, Barry, go ahead. Run your mouth.
That's what I do for a living. Baby.
Yeah, I know.
You're pretty good living doing that.
We're going to get a Donald Trump fact checker under you.
Oh, yeah. Don't do that. Don't do that. So on our last episode,
in part one, we went over some basics of Primal Offers. Perry, if you could just recap for us in 4 minutes or less, like in the bedroom, and then we can move on to part 2.
Yeah. So we talked about the evolution of offer, how they went from just being marketing went from just describing an offer to doing description, benefits, transformations, and eventually new identities for customers. If you can achieve those things, you do better. The reasons people buy. There are about 7 primary reasons people buy. We talk about certainty. We talk about a lot of those. We talk about people, more importantly, why people don't buy.
Right.
Which I think is probably
single most important thing you can understand about your offer.
Yeah, it really, really is. We talked about the way you build a cult following to convince people that...
The way you've built a cult following.
The way I've built a cult. I don't know if I've built much of a cult following. I don't know. I got a cult following of despicable humans that follow me around. I think if you're part of the tribe, baby, you know who you is. And we talked about, sequencing. That's what we talked about in the last set. That was a hell of a good recording.
It really was. So make sure you go back and watch that before you continue on. Pause this one now. Head back. Watch the last one, Primal Offers, part 1.
Yeah.
And then head back over here and we're going to get into it. So let's get into it.
You'll understand when you watch that, the framework of why the most advanced copywriters in the world, the most advanced offer creators in the world working in the most competitive markets, right? Here's the thing. If you're selling tires in Sheboygan, do you need this? No. But you're going to kill every other tire seller in Sheboygan if you understand it. When I go down in a local market, we're doing a lot of business right now in local markets. And when we go down into a local market, it's like Mike Tyson and Pee Wee Herman in a boxing ring. It's not fair because I'm playing a completely different game than the average so-called copywriters playing. If you pull people out of these super highly competitive markets, like the 3 big markets are, money, relationships, and health. If you pull any copywriter out, Paris Lampopoulos, any of these guys are just great copywriters out of health, and you put him up against writing, diet clinic copy in San Diego, he's going to rip the other guy's head off because he's going to know so much more about what's going on in the deep psych and the dark psych. This is kind of dark, by the way. I didn't talk about that earlier. I hope that you guys use this for the best possible purpose, Because you can take some of these concepts you're learning here and make people do things they ordinarily wouldn't do. It's pretty voodoo magic stuff. You can, I hate to say brainwash people. That's a kind of a...
You can absolutely manipulate people into thinking that it was their idea to do things that you want them to do.
Yeah.
I think that's so brainwashing.
You're so brainwashing. Hey, it's how I get laid, right? So anyway, so what I want to talk about next is, and this hopefully this will be a fairly short episode, is fear. So we talked a lot about the reasons people don't buy and the reasons they do buy and status and all those things, but we haven't talked about fear yet. Fear is an incredible motivator.
Yes.
An incredible motivator. Most things that you worry about will never come to pass, but you worry about them anyway.
You suffer far more inside your head than you do in real life.
Yeah. Whatever you're going through today is so much worse in your mind when you're going through it. Because you'll go back, think about some time in the past in your life that's just been a horrible time. And now you can look back at it and go, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that big of a deal. I got through it. No big deal. But when you were in it,
terrible.
Man, it was the shit, dude. You were tore up, right?
You were never, ever, ever going to be the same, and you were never going to come out of it. And if I ever make it to the other side, now you look back and it was just like,
and then you get married again. Yeah.
or in your case, you give away half again.
Yeah. Well, it's the same as getting married.
Right.
Same for me.
For you.
So
some of us have post-nups.
Yeah. So what are people really afraid of? That's the thing. Like I had a privilege of working with the Agora companies, and they're arguably the largest company in our direct response space. They do $1 billion.
I don't think arguably, it's a fact.
Yeah. They do over $1 billion a year. There are a few other companies that get close, but but
they're not.
But
their combined companies is far larger than their closest second.
Their business is not at all what everybody thinks it is. And it's not in my business to tell you their business. You go study it and see if you can figure it out. But one thing that they're really, really, really good at is instilling fear into their database. And their database of buyers are on average something like a 70-year-old white male, right? Who's really afraid of running out of money before they run out of life. They only sell 2 real products. They sell financial advice and they sell alternative health products, both of which people buy for the balance of their lives. When somebody is a financial advice buyer, they're going to buy, if they own stock, they're going to buy financial advice forever to get an edge. If they're an alternative health person, they're going to buy alternative health products the rest of their life to live longer or healthier or whatever. It's pretty interesting. A little stat in the supplement space. The average supplement taker in America spends $454 a year on supplements, but half of them don't take any. Half of Americans don't take any. So that means the person who takes supplements spends in the neighborhood of $1,000 a year on supplements, making it one of their top 5 household expenses, which is pretty crazy. So
you're actually, it's pretty crazy how spot on you are.
I have a memory like a fucking steel trap.
No, you don't.
I don't just make shit up and say that I remember it.
You do.
Like
you do.
Somebody I know.
You absolutely do. But for that, you've been wrong a few times. But for
pretty
that,
close.
You're very close, actually.
I'm within striking distance.
You're within striking distance.
So the point is they do a great job. So they're just talking to them about being debilitated and crippled and in a nursing home because they know there's the biggest fears before they die, or running out of money before they die. So they end up crippled, debilitated in a nursing home, right? It's the same customer, same fears, right? Those are a little more core fears. For the balance of humanity, our fears are really quite unjustified. And most people think the number one fear is a fear of failure. It's actually not. It's the number 2 fear. The number 1 fear is embarrassment.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference there, right? Embarrassment is basically failure in front of other people, or having other people see disappointment in you, or having other people see inferiority in you. And Emma and I are reading a book at the same time right now called The Courage to be Disliked. And it's a fabulous book on overcoming that fear. And I think both of us, for the most part, have overcome it. We don't give a shit what people think. I don't.
Not one.
Largely give a shit. I do maybe just a hair more than her.
Yeah, probably a lot more than I do.
Because I like to be liked.
I don't care.
I do like to be liked.
I don't care.
It makes me feel warm and fuzzy.
I need to be liked by the people that is important to me. And
i.e. the ones that write her checks.
I actually don't even care about them. I always have a very close knit of friends. I'd like 5. like 5 close friends. And that changes over time for me. Generally 2 to 3 of them stay the same for years. But yeah, and those are the only people I care about, what they think of me. Everybody else can fuck all the way off.
Well, there's a threshold, right? So when you go to sell something, there's a reason tripwire products sell so easily. If you buy a $10 thing on the internet, chances are nobody else is really going to know about it. You don't have to justify that purchase to anyone else. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a private purchase. If it sucks, it sucks. You lost $10. You're going to still feel just as stupid. Right. I mean, I live in Las Vegas part-time, and when I'm in Las Vegas, every now and then, I don't gamble at all. Once in a blue moon, I'll stick $20 in a slot machine while I'm waiting for a lunch or something. I feel just as stupid for losing that $20 that I spend when I used to gamble and lose $20,000. I felt stupid then too. Mm-hmm. But you feel just as stupid, but you get to feel stupid privately. That's a feeling of failure or disappointment in yourself, which sucks. But when you lose 20 grand, and that was the down payment on the house that you were buying, not that I know anybody's ever done anything like that before. Now everybody knows it.
Noticed how detailed that was.
Yeah. Actually, it was $42,000.
I was just going to say, I'm pretty sure it was double that.
It was $42,000, and I lost.
Or the time that you lost all the money to bring your twin children home.
I couldn't bring them home,
and had to trick the hotel into letting you stay.
let me stay, and to let me leave.
So, in other words, Perry's an idiot. But go ahead, you can.
I was 22 years old. That was 372 years ago. I've learned a lot since then. So
it's 370.
But really, the fear of public embarrassment, that's the reason, like when you guys are selling a thing and you reach a threshold with money and you go, well, why won't they jump the broom? Why don't they spend more money? This is particularly, not to be a sexist thing, it's particularly a problem for women because most women have to justify expenditures in the house and most men don't. Not always. Some do, some don't. But if the man can say, hey, look, I'm buying this because I needed it for my work or I need it for my business. They get to kind of play a trump card, right? And they get away with more. Where women typically are more responsible with money, and they're also more responsible with the responsibility of money because they're going to be the ones chastised. It's like lower level employees are afraid of spending money. CEOs and executives wheel and deal and throw it around like peanuts, right? Because they don't have to answer to somebody if they make a bad decision. That fear of public embarrassment is so great. I'll tell you a story about it. I was consulting with Zillow. This has been probably 8-9 years ago now. I was consulting with Zillow. And if you're a realtor and you advertise on Zillow, you're paying back then, I don't know what it is now, it was $125 a lead. Anytime somebody saw a house and went and filled out the little form to the right, you would get information on this person, $125 that they were interested in this house. And I don't remember the exact numbers now, but it was in the 80 percentile of leads. The realtors never called. They never reached out to them. And the deal was, after we worked on it for a while and did a lot of interviews, we realized that they had all this bias about, number one, they had a lot of bias about names. If it was a woman, they thought, well, she's not a decision maker. If it was a Hispanic name, well, they probably can't afford it. If it was an Asian name, they're going to drive me around neighborhoods all day long speaking a different language. If it was, they had all these biases, so they wouldn't call people back. But really the core thing was, on the other end of that phone was the potentiality of a sale, but the inevitability of rejection and failure. And right around the same time I was doing that, I was working with a lady named Susan Brandt and Tim Brandt, great people. And Susan's been teaching couples how to reignite their love life, older couples, for years. And she said that almost any time during a marriage, there'll be a period of time where a woman will lose her interest in sex. And during that time, the man will approach her for sex and be turned away or rejected. Statistically, if he approaches her 3 times during that period of time, and is rejected, he will never ask her again because the pain of rejection is greater than the desire for sexual expression, which is crazy to think about. So the woman comes out of this funk or whatever, menopause or estrogen cycles or whatever it is that happens, and they're like ready to be sexually active again. Now they feel like their partner doesn't desire them anymore because he doesn't approach her anymore. And therefore, their marriage deteriorates, or they just live separate lives in the same house. It's such a strong thing that can turn you off of sex completely in your life. So this fear of rejection, fear of embarrassment, erectile dysfunction is a multi-billion-dollar industry because of a fear largely of embarrassment, right? I can't express to you strongly enough how big a concept this is. So when you're setting up your customer, when you're setting this up for a purchase, you got to make sure that there's incredible risk reversal where they won't be humiliated. And the best thing to do is just don't charge them. Charge them after they get a good result. If you can afford to do that, or if you can figure out a way to do it, it works out so much better. Because it might be a business partner telling another business partner, I want to join Driven Mastermind. I think it's going to be great for us. It's $30,000 and I think we can grow. The other business partner says no, and they argue. And then finally, the one business partner says, well, I really want to do it. The other business partner says, go ahead. Go ahead and do it. I bet you don't make back your money. Right? So now there's this big conflict, and that one person likely will not spend the money because
fear of embarrassment.
They're afraid if it doesn't work out perfectly, they're going to be embarrassed by their business partner and lose face with that business partner. So this goes all the way down the pike. So you got to be sure that you have a way for people to save face should the decision not work out for them. It's really, really, really important. I worked with Dan Kennedy for a long time and he did a bunch of the Gunthy Rinker commercials. And it's hilarious, but I never thought about it. If they didn't put 3 times, not once, 3 times in an exercise equipment video that the piece of exercise equipment would fold up and slide under the bed for storage, they couldn't sell it. So the person knew before they bought it that they weren't going to use it. Subconsciously, they knew they weren't going to use it. So they wanted to make sure they could hide it somewhere where they wouldn't be reminded themselves or by their people that lived in the house of their embarrassment for having purchased that product. It's a giant concept. So you got to figure out how to fight against that. The other two that are equally as important, but strongly important, are the loss of status. And this one's going to tie into one of the big desires in a few minutes, especially for men. The loss of status is this. I always say that every time someone makes a purchase, they're looking at a scale, right? You got a scale. And over here, this thing's going to elevate my status. And over here, this thing has the potentiality of lowering my status. And they make a decision oftentimes based on that scale. So like, for instance, I had a beautiful white Rolls-Royce with a blue top. Did it elevate my status when I drove it down the road, when I parked it in front of my house? You bet it did. I felt like my wanker was 10 feet long when I was in that thing. I used to go take business calls in the Rolls because it made me feel empowered to do it.
That makes sense to me.
It really did. I really did. It elevated my status. Now, could I have bought one a lot sooner? Yeah. But 2 reasons I didn't. One, before I lived in a neighborhood with smaller houses, and I felt like I was going to look like an asshole to all my neighbors.
Like an asshole.
No, I didn't. I live in an 8,000-foot house. Everybody had a Rolls-Royce. So until I got divorced,
the Rolls-Royce isn't what makes you look like an asshole.
It's just me.
It's just you.
Yeah.
Just to be clear.
You. So that was one reason. The second reason, I didn't do it until I had literally millions and millions and millions of dollars in the bank. Because the idea of overextending, right, and not being able to afford other things in life, or the kids to go to school, or the mortgage payment, or whatever, or even worse, the fear of the damn Rolls-Royce being repoed because I can't make the payment, or I'm hiding it in a basement somewhere because I can't pay for it, right, kept me from buying it. Right? It was a total fear of public humiliation and embarrassment. Once I was in a big house in a big neighborhood and knew that it wasn't going to damage me, I instantly bought a $400,000+ car, which was a stupid purchase, illogical purpose, but I wanted it because I'd always wanted it. Right? You just get these status things that you want, but I wouldn't have done it if it would have put me at risk. Like, a lot of people could buy a new car tomorrow, live in a bigger house, but what if they had a setback and couldn't pay the mortgage? So I think everybody looks at your thing and says, that's the financial scale. The real scale is, am I going to be disappointed in myself for being stupid and being duped into this thing because this girl was a good salesman? Or even worse, am I going to go against the recommendations of my family and my friends and go ahead and do a thing anyway because the sales pitch was so good and then look like an asshole in front of all of them? Right? Which is the greatest fear. It's one of the reasons, you know, who does a good job with this? The network marketing companies. If you go sign up for Amway or one of those other things, Herbalife or any of that, one of the things they'll teach you in the orientation is you've got to get away from your negative friends and family. They're going to tell you you're crazy. You got to ignore them. Just don't even tell them what you're doing. You know, you don't want that negativity in your life. They're against you. They're the crab in the bucket story. They'll tell you all that stuff because they don't want you to fear that. They want, this is your new family now. You can be with us. You know who else does that? Pimps that turn out prostitutes. The first thing the pimp has to do with the prostitute is separate that prostitute from her family. That's his first job. It's crazy. There's a great book called The Pimp Game. It's an amazing book.
It is an amazing book.
It's a great book. And it talks about how the pimp game, the pimp structure of a pimp business is the same structure of a major league sports team, of a giant corporation,
military.
A law firm, the military. The structure is exactly the same. They're just playing it in a very different field. But look at the military. Do they say, hey, you can join the Army. We're going to come by every Tuesday and we're going to work out? No. They put you on a bus to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina.
Where you can't have contact with your friends or family or have a cell phone or any access to the outside world while you're sleep deprived, while you're malnourished, and while you are completely off your rocker.
And convince you that it's not only is it okay, it's your duty to shoot and kill people you've never met.
That doesn't happen during boot camp. That happens for certain MOSs under much more extreme situations. Yeah. Under boot camp, like in the pimp game, what they're doing is creating a loyalty and a need for the military. Yeah. You're in the military not because you want to serve your country, but because it's the only option you have.
I always find it fascinating that in the pimp game, there's a standard split of money between the pimp and the hoe. It's 100% zero. The hoe gets nothing. She gets no money. She has to go to the pimp to ask for something if she wants it. They don't ever give her any. If they give her any, they're giving her value, and they can't give her value. It's a fascinating story. It's a fascinating story, but go read it. It's a good book. I think that loss of status, people are terrified of, but once they cross the chasm and the girl decides to be the host, she's all in then. She's dedicated, right? But people are terrified of losing status. They're terrified of being embarrassed in front of other people.
It's why women stay in abusive relationships.
Yes.
It's why people go bankrupt instead of asking for help.
Yeah.
It's why young girls hide pregnancies. I mean, like if you really think about the magnitude of what shame puts on our society, embarrassment and shame puts on our society, it's actually unbelievable when you can apply these concepts to your offers and to your marketing.
Something you'll probably find interesting. A friend of mine buys distressed real estate, and he's one of the most successful in the country at it. He lives in Memphis. His name is Brett, and he learned something pretty early on that most people who are facing foreclosure will get their door knocked on 100 times, get 100 letters in the mail. Let me buy you out. Let me save you from foreclosure. And they'll go all the way to foreclosure. They won't take a bailout.
Why?
Because most people approach them with the, hey, you fucked your mortgage up, and I'll help you out, bail you out. You're lesser than me. I'm going to rescue you, yada, yada, yada. And out of absolute spite, the person just won't let somebody profit on their misfortune. My buddy Brett, brilliant. Knock, knock, knock. Hey, man, my name is Brett. I'm just getting into this real estate thing. And, I love your house, man. It would really help my family out. I'm trying to make this real estate thing work, and I don't know if it's going to work for me or not, but I'm just trying to buy a house, show my wife that I can do this. And the guy's bought hundreds of houses. And he makes it to where they're doing him a favor. Well, what happened to it's the story they get to tell later is so much better. Story one is my house got foreclosed on. Story two is Well, I had to sell my house to some vulture to keep from getting foreclosed on. Story 3 is, yeah, we didn't know what we were going to do, but we met this really nice family and they wanted to buy the house and they needed it more than we did. So we just sold them the house. So it gave them a better story to tell. Does that make sense?
Total sense.
Total sense. This guy's just killed it in the real estate game. So status is super important. The really tough one, man, is the loss of hope. People just, when they feel hopeless, like I think a lot of the election stuff right now that's been going on is played on people's sense of hopelessness, that the country's so far gone that it's never going to come back.
Oh God, the amount of times that I heard that.
Yeah.
Over the past, I'm so glad we're over the election, by the way. I'm so glad. I didn't even care.
For a while, anyway.
Right, for a while, for a little while. But it's, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. But if you can punch that, and most people are afraid to push these buttons. They're really
why do you think, I'd like to explore that for a moment, because as much as I want you to stop talking, I really do want to explore that. What do you think it is about people that, because we've seen it, right? Like, you teach us in Driven, you teach us in Ignite, you teach us in Boardroom, the intermediary between the two. And the amount of people that pull the trigger on it.
Almost nobody does.
I want to understand why you think that is.
Because we feel like people think like we do. We feel like we're all swimming upstream.
If people felt like, oh, we feel like we're all swimming upstream.
We feel like we're all, and we are. We are naturally all trying to embed ourselves. We're actually all trying.
We're all salmon.
We're all salmon swimming one way up the stream, right? You might be behind me. You might be in front of me.
It doesn't even matter.
Doesn't matter. We're all going toward.
We're on our journey.
In that book we're reading, a journey of superiority.
Right.
We're all trying to be superior to other people and ourselves. We're trying to grow.
I think most of us, or at least in my perception, I'm just trying to beat me every year.
Well,
that's my bar.
When you get to a certain level, yeah.
There are plenty of people I could aim for.
But that's not what most people do. Most people,
there are tons of people I could aim for, but that wouldn't be healthy, right?
We're going to get to lust and wrath and envy and all those things in a minute, because most of us aren't.
So people are going upstream. So what keeps the average person who is in business and who's doing well for themselves from just pulling the trigger on these triggers?
Because we believe that everybody wants to hear the sunshine and rainbow story. But there's a million sunshine and rainbow stories. The fear of loss will always outstrip the desire to succeed. This was before I ever got in the marketing business. I was 18 years old. I was living in Paducah, Kentucky.
Which is a hopeless place.
Yeah. I took a 5-minute sales job for McCowan Office Equipment. They sold copiers. And this guy came into town.
Someone hired you?
Yeah. For a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I've never been a permanent employee. I worked for Disney World for 89 days.
That was the longest job, right?
90 days I would have been a permanent employee. I did not want that on my record. Little did I know what all would be on my record eventually. But anyway, this guy out of New York bought the copy. He was buying copier dealerships all over. And he brought us all in. He said, we're going to have a sales meeting tomorrow morning. And there were like 7 or 8 of us. And he said, okay, you're going in this room and you're going in this room. And I actually went in the good room, which was cool. And I was doing a little better than the others. I was pretty new. And he said, he came in the room with us and he said, hey, here's the good news, bad news. Bad news is your friends next door are all getting fired. Good news is you still have your job. Bad news is we've doubled your quota.
Ouch.
Good news is let's walk outside. I walked outside and there were 3 cars out there. One, take your pick. That's your new company car. Minute you don't hit your quota, keys on my desk. I got a little C-Class black Mercedes to drive. Now I was driving a beater. Right? I got a Mercedes effing Benz to drive in Paducah, Kentucky. You think I hit that quota?
Yes.
You bet your sweet ass I did. I would have slit somebody's throat and forced a copier down it to keep that car. The fear of loss is always greater than the desire to succeed. It's a bigger motivator. But people are afraid. It's counterintuitive to human nature to think that way. People are afraid. Even in a bad marriage, even if you're in a marriage that sucks.
Absolutely.
And it's time for the other one to leave.
Absolutely.
and it really happens and they're like, I'm out of here. You're like, no, don't go.
Yeah, 90,
beat the shit out of them.
And I'm making this number up, but 90% of people who get divorced probably should have got divorced 24 months before they ever filed.
Yeah. But you're afraid, right?
Well, who's going to do the things that person does?
You're afraid of the unknown.
And what's the dating scene like now? Do I really want to sleep alone?
Yeah.
Do I want to have to pay half of these bills?
And you'll just settle for the sure thing that you got most of the time.
Right.
Most people settle.
Why fuck with the devil I don't know?
I watched Flyland. I watched him deliver one of the best talks I've ever seen him do the day I met you, actually. And there was a lady in the audience that said, well, you have a goal. Yeah, I'm going to double my business next year. How are you going to do that?
I remember this.
What's your plan? What are the levers you're going to pull? Well, we're going to need to make more sales. How are you going to do that? And it really broke down to the fact that it was just bullshit. It was just a statement, right? And so she had no path. You know where you're going to be in a year? Right where you are now. You know why?
You have no plan.
Because you're comfortable failing.
Yeah.
You don't know what success is going to feel like. You'd rather stay in comfortable failure than great success. Well, that's the hill that you're battling with most people. It's far easier to say, guess what? I'm not going to tell you you're going to do better. I'm going to tell you you're about to lose the shitty thing you already got. That motivates the hell out of people. It's crazy what a motivator it is. But most marketers won't do it because most marketers, the people that get in the marketing space and advertising space, are shaken howdy people for the most part. They really want to be liked. They like to be the center of attention. They like to be everybody's buddy. They like to be good old Perry that everybody's going to go drink a beer with. They like that. It's in their human nature to do it. So for them to go out and tell you, if you don't do this, I'm going to fuck your life up, is not who they are. But when you catch that handful of people, like a Grant Cardone, that'll scream at you that you're not a salesman, you're a piece of shit. Put that coffee down. Coffee's for closers, that kind of thing. Or Dave Ramsey that tells you, no, you can't work 20 years and buy a speedboat because having a $211 payment is irresponsible for you, you dumb shit. Your
grandchildren need to go to university.
Yeah, your grandchildren who will never come visit you in the nursing home need to go to university. Fuck those kids.
Those kids.
That's a thing. But you know what? But people resonate the hell out of that message.
Yeah.
Right? They'll buy into that message. It's really asinine, right? But it's true. So think about when you're making an offer to people, how could people be embarrassed or disappointed or feel like they failed
if they didn't buy?
If this doesn't work, well, that's two.
If they didn't buy,
that's where you turn on cortisol.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about cortisol.
Right. We did in part one.
We didn't talk about cortisol yet. So I'll go ahead and talk about it there. So cortisol, we talked about cortisol, but we skipped it. We said basically dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin are all those happy love drugs. Dopamine is anticipation of something good happening. Serotonin is the anticipation of my status being elevated. Oxytocin is the anticipation of a feeling of belonging or being loved, like the day right before you get married, until the 5 minutes after you realize you fucked your life forever and give up half your shit.
Took me 30 days. 5 minutes for you?
5 minutes, And so anyway, but there's another chemical called cortisol. And cortisol is a great chemical to stimulate at the right time. It's toward the end of an offer. It's how ordinary are you going to be? How disappointed are you going to feel tomorrow? When you go right back to the same cubicle, but one day you're going to look over, you and Jimmy sit next to each other in a cubicle, but one day Jimmy's not there anymore. Jimmy got off his ass and he did something. And now you're stuck in the cubicle all alone. And Jimmy's out living a great life. Do you remember the time that there was a beautiful girl at the prom you wanted to dance with, but you didn't have the courage to do it, and now she's married to your ugly best friend? Do you remember the job that you didn't go on the interview for, and now the guy next to you asked for the promotion and he has it and he's your fucking boss now and he's breathing down your neck all day? Remember all the times that you didn't grasp that brass ring, right? Are you going to do that again? Are you going to let that happen to you again? Because if you are, I can't help you. I say at the end of some of my sales letters sometimes, it's like my daddy always said, the world needs ditch diggers too, son. So it's true though, right? So those are, fear is a big driver. And so what are people most afraid of? Well, let's go to desire. We haven't hit desire yet. People want to do what they want to do, number one. We're going to talk about the deadly sins in a second, but desire, what do people have a desire for? Sex. Almost all reasons why people buy things or do things or take action on things comes back in one way or another to sex. Weirdly enough, that's going to sound like, oh, Perry's being a pervert again.
No, we can go 8 ways from Sunday, and you're absolutely
You can go all the way around it. So why do men want to make more money? So they can have a larger selection in the mating pool. That's what we want. We want to be able to mate with women.
You want to be able to trade in that 47-year-old for a 27-year-old.
You want to be able to you want to be trading that 40 for 2 20s, baby. Right? So you do. Men want to have a better selection of dating pool. I love this comic. God dang, he's so funny. Patrice O'Neill. He said, guys, I want y'all to look around tonight and know this. If a man got money, he can sleep with beautiful women. If a man got a lot of money, he can sleep with the most beautiful women in the world. So you should know this, ladies. You are the best your man can do at this time. Right? He's very funny, but it's true. So men do that. Women want to stay beautiful and sexually attractive because it provides security to them in a lot of cases. And we're going back, and we're not talking about, you can throw darts at me if you want about societal norms today, but we're not living in societal norms today. We're still living as fucking cavemen and cavewomen. And people don't get that.
Here's the thing, right? Is we've made it look different, but fundamentally it's still
fundamentally it's the same.
I agree with you completely. And there are a lot of people that will argue this because of feminism, and like Austin just had the free bleeding conference.
That I don't even get. But
I'm with you, buddy. But you know, we have gender identity in elementary schools, and we get on podcasts and calls, and the first question is, what do you identify? How do you identify? It's crazy for some of us, and for some of us, it's right where they want to be. But regardless of what side of the fence you fall on,
yeah,
fundamentally, we are still cavemen and cavewomen.
We are.
We still have the same needs, wants, and desires. They 100%. May look different,
right? But
they are the same exact things. They're just wrapped differently. It's the same freaking present, yeah. But it's still wrapped differently.
Like back in the day, the hunter would go hunt. They would drag the kill back to the cave. Mm-hmm. The hunter didn't skin the animal. The hunter didn't gut the animal. The wife did, or the mate did. And you know what she did when she was done? I think
it was actually a more village type thing.
You know what she did when she was done with that? She would hang that hide over the opening of the cave to dry.
Right.
She could have hung that hide anywhere. That was, look what my man
did, yeah.
Today, that's called a fucking Range Rover.
Right.
That's all it is. It's the same. It's
a Maserati with a tennis racket in the back.
Something like that, yeah. So, you know, number one, sex. Number two, love. Well, kind of hard to have one without the other, right? But the love of your children, the love of your family, love of people around you.
Love and sex are not the same thing.
Wealth. Why do men aspire to be wealthy?
So they can have sex.
So they can feel loved, right? It's a really funny thing. I was reading a study the other day that I haven't dove too deep in this yet, but you might have a comment about this. Men who become wealthy take on more responsibilities. They have more family. They have more.
I think men and women.
Women in their lives. Women who become financially successful generally create more independence for themselves. That's generally true. And later in life, they may have a hole in their life where they have.
I feel like I'm not the barometer.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm not the barometer, but like a quick thought of, because instantly I wanted to say no, I did the other, but I'm not a good barometer. But I'm thinking about the other wealthy women I know.
Wealthy women you know, and how difficult a time they have with relationships.
Right. They want.
They're almost all single.
So even like, it's funny because it popped in my head instantly. Probably the most successful female I know in my camp actually does have a husband. She bought him the house next door. Literally, they have
secret to happy marriage is square footage.
Yeah, yeah. Really she bought him the house next door, and they spend 2 nights a week together.
Yeah,
yeah, and like thinking through all the females that I know that are successful. You're absolutely right. They are either single or they have positioned themselves and don't comment too much on this one, but they've positioned themselves to be with someone that relied on them versus the other way around.
Because they're balked so many women for so many years since the caveman time. They've been dependent.
Their complete existence is dependence on their husbands, making their husbands happy. And if their husbands decided that they were no longer worthy of their presence, they were off on their own.
That booger off
with no ability to take care of themselves, earn for themselves, or provide for their families.
There's what they call them, med school somethings. They got a name for them. The girlfriend you have in med school that pays your way through and works as a waitress to pay your freaking tuition and shit. You get out of med school and guess what? You're banging the head nurse. And you kicking her to the curb,
right?
Because she's worn out from working to get you through med school, right? And that happens all the time. There's a name for them. I forget what they call them, but wealth provides security for women. It provides opportunity for men,
right?
Admiration. People want to be admired. Everyone. There's not a single person in the world doesn't want to be admired.
Sex doesn't matter,
right?
Socioeconomical background doesn't matter. Everybody wants to be admired. But even the introvert who doesn't want to.
How do men get admired?
Sex.
They get admired. This is amazing statement that I heard recently. It was just incredible. This lady who I'm in eternal love with you, by the way, Sadia Khan, the psychologist.
I thought you were going to say your living girlfriend, Belle.
Well, of course, but
yeah, he really likes Sadia.
I do like Sadia a lot. Sadia's never going to look. Anyway, but Sadia Khan's brilliant, and she says that. Listen, get this. This is.
But you couldn't make enough money, and there is not enough alcohol
in the world
for Sadia Khan to put a finger on you.
Belle's got beer goggles for me somehow.
Yeah,
but
we're still wondering about that.
But Sadia Khan said something the other day that just floored me. She said, "Men judge men by the quality of woman who's willing to submit to them." Think about that statement.
Oh, that's good.
That's a heavy statement, isn't it?
That's good.
Men judge men by the quality of women who are willing to submit to them, which is a pretty freaking heavy statement. She's a smart chick, by the way.
Really good.
Go Sadia Psychology. I think she's great, by the way. So people want to be admired. And lastly, people have a desire for nostalgia. And this can screw you as an entrepreneur big time. Because in entrepreneurial careers, you're going to go up, you're going to go down. You're going up, you're going down. And I got stuck with this in the last few years. I've had some years that have just been phenomenal years, right? And when you have a giant year, like I've had some exit years that have been great. I've had some great onion years. You'll set your goal on getting back to your highest point.
When you lose it.
Yeah. It's a terrible way to think.
Right.
We want to go back to the good old days, right? And it really limits us. You should always be trying to exceed your greatest point by a long shot, right? Because if you fall short of it, you're still gonna have growth. If you look at a company that says, well, our company used to do 10 million a year and now we're doing 5 million a year. Wow, I just wish we could get back to 10 million. Chances are you won't.
Right.
If you start aspiring to get to 50 million, you'll probably soar past 10 million. You might fall short at 20 or 30, but so what? You tripled. So you either have to nut up or shut up. And it's a hard thing for those of you listening that are in your 50s and 60s or even older. You start thinking about, well, I need less and I'm going to cut back. And, if I could just have this, or you start justifying frankly, your failure based on your age and you don't need as much and things like that. And it's a jacked up way to think. So those are the big desires. If you don't think sex is a desire, I've got a list of like 50 reasons people buy things. And it can be speed, it can be ease, it can be wealth, it can be admiration, it can be all those things. It all comes back. Look at how many men, look how many great men. Not that they're great men, I should say it that way. Look how many powerful men. Harvey Weinstein owned Hollywood and he blew it for sex. How many men have ruined their entire Diddy right now? Just being a freak to sex, right? He did everything he did to give himself the opportunity to have some freakish sex, right? That screwed up so many men. You really never hear that in women. You never hear big sex scandals about powerful women that took them down. Powerful women are too busy making money. They're too busy building their independent shelter. They're too busy building the moat around them that protects them. The last thing they're looking for is that maybe later in life, when they find that's absent in their life, they're looking for it. You know, when I got single last night, I got fixed up with they were trying to fix me up with all these girls. And so many people were trying to fix me up with people in the industry, powerful women in the industry. It just never worked. It has never, ever worked for all sorts of reasons. But it was shocking that I found that so many of these women that are named women with big careers, not just in the marketing business, but in the manufacturing business or CEOs of companies and stuff like that. So many of them are single. Because women, Scott Galloway, I love it. He talks about how women typically won't date down their economic or educational levels. Not always, but they typically don't. They don't date guys that are less educated. They don't date guys that make less money. Unless they've just decided that, I don't know how you would really.
I think, again, I'm not the bar. 99.9% of women date up in class, up in earnings, up in education.
Up in education is a big one. And women have a harder time taking a downgrade in status than men do.
Right.
Women's career trajectories are usually more solid. They're slower, but more solid. They tend to not take big dips. Men will take risks that can put them back down status, because down status doesn't hurt men that much. It doesn't hurt men as much as it hurts women.
It doesn't hurt men at all.
Yeah. But women don't.
In fact, if he down status but up beauty, he's a king. I won't go into names, but we have a driven member that is old, and it kind of gives you the
heebie-jeebies.
Dating like a 22-year-old who's a complete and utter trash bag. But every guy in the room is like, what's up?
You go, bro.
What's up, bro? Give me down.
Because every dude in the room's going, I should like to get me a little bit of that.
I like to get me some 20-year-old pussy.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Of course. Now, if one of our female members
showed up with a 22-year-old.
Who's like 50.
That'd be gross.
Who showed up with a 22-year-old.
Especially all the other women.
It would be, the other women would lose it.
Yeah.
Seethe.
Yeah.
Seethe. Because we have sons their age.
Yeah. Yeah. It would just be gross.
Right. It'd be disgusting. It's just a completely different dynamic.
It's funny. We're getting story time, but I want to get this last piece in a minute. But a friend of mine owns dance studios, these Arthur Murray dance studio franchise. It's a big dating thing. That's all it is. All the dating, all the matchmaking sites in America. Remember Bill that was on the call the other day that I said, he used to be a board member. And I said, you cheap bastard, you should be in Driven. Remember him?
Yes.
Okay. Bill, great guy.
Yeah.
So Bill owns matchmaking services all over America, the live in-person ones, 20, 30, 40, 50.
There are in-person matchmaking sessions?
Oh, fuck yeah. Yeah. $40,000, $50,000 to matchmake you with the right person.
No,
guess who pays all the money?
Men.
No.
Women.
100%.
That's really interesting.
Almost all. In fact, so Arthur Murray Dance Studios, same, right? Women go there largely. Single older women go there to meet men. Single older women want companionship. If a 60-year-old woman wants to meet a 60-year-old man or even older for companionship, a 60-year-old man wants to meet a 35-year-old woman because he's rich.
Right.
And he's an ageist, right? That's the way they are. It's crazy. The dance studios pay the guys to come dance with the women. The women pay thousands to be in the classes. It's crazy. Even in the matchmaking things,
that's really
the biggest problem with the matchmakers at $15,000, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, they can't find enough men to matchmake the women with. There aren't enough.
Well, because they're probably older.
Yeah.
And older men don't want older women.
Older, nice-looking men don't want older women. And not for the reasons you think either.
Men that are single in their 40s and 50s either want younger women or they're already married.
Well, and the world is wide open to them.
Right.
Men, the guys, if you're watching in your 20s and 30s and you're wondering why you can't get laid, it's because old dudes like us are banging all your girlfriends, because seriously,
they got more money.
Because we got more money, and girls are attracted to security and power and wisdom and education. The other thing too is
at 22, 23, 25 years old as a female, there were very few men that were my age that I could have a conversation that I didn't feel like was a waste of my
women
time.
Are naturally more mature.
Right. That's the point I'm making. Yeah. If I sat down with a 35 to 40-year-old man in my early 20s, I had a matched intellect conversation.
Right. Yeah, it's absolutely true. So when you're talking to the female market or male market, I guess the point of this is they're very different motivations, right? But there are also very similar motivations. Mm-hmm. Just there's a nuance. Lastly, and we'll wrap this up. And I picked this up, I forget from what I read, but it's really interesting. Was talking about offers, and again back to Trump. I picked up a lot of this with Trump. The 7 deadly sins. The 7 deadly sins are lust, gluttony, greed, sloth, wrath, envy, and pride. If you want to write great offers, tell everybody they can do that, and it's all okay. It's totally okay to lust after your neighbor's wife. It's totally okay.
YOLO. You only live once.
Yeah.
Why allow yourself to die without experiencing the true love of your life who cares that your neighbor or your best friend's married to them?
Right. Totally okay.
To be greedy, because we should all be greedy so we can give back to the kingdom.
Greed, remember,
that's my favorite.
Yeah, so we can give back to the kingdom.
That's my favorite.
Greed is good, If you go to, I grew up in Pentecostal church, right? And I don't know if any Pentecostals are in or not.
Can you speak in tongues? Speak in tongues.
In ways that you couldn't imagine.
Yeah.
I
vomited in my mouth.
A, B, C, D. So,
let me get some water.
Gluttony. If you go to any of these, if you go to Pentecostal church, man, these people are huge. They eat all day long, every day. But look, do you think Donald Trump has control over the media that goes out about him, most of it? His internal media?
His internal media? Yeah.
Do you think he decides what photos get shared and what don't?
I believe that Donald Trump has some say in some of those photos. I believe in most situations the answer would be no.
Do you think that he allows or disallows pictures of him eating buckets of Kentucky Fried Chicken and McDonald's?
Disallows.
I disagree completely. I think he wants to show that I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want to do, whenever the fuck I want to do it. If I want to glutton out on a whole bucket of chicken, there's a picture of him on Air Force One with a bucket of chicken.
Is there really?
Yeah. And those,
I would not have guessed that, but sure.
Greed. Greed is okay. Sloth. Everybody talks about how lazy he is, and he plays golf all the time.
He's lazy. He plays golf and he consumes TV.
Consumes massive amounts of television. TV. When everybody else tells you that only poor people watch TV.
Right. Well,
but it's okay if you watch TV.
Yeah.
Wrath. Obviously, you can be insane wrath. Envy, he can appear to be envious of anyone he wants to be. He's super prideful. He's teaching you pride. He's teaching you to be envious of other countries that are screwing us over. We're going to get back at it. So all those things, when you're writing an offer, if you can incorporate those things, you don't have to. What I don't want you to do is take everything you learned in these two things and sit down and try to craft an offer where everything you've learned here is incorporating that offer, because it's going to sound like
it's going to be a crazy train to crazy town.
Trash bag of an offer. They did an offer to give you an idea of what happens when you do.
Trash bag offer? Are they selling you?
When you do get close, what happens? There was an offer that Agora put out. A guy named Mike Palmer wrote it for Stansberry Research, called The End of America. It was the best offer that ever ran at Agora. That offer incorporated almost everything that we're talking about. It was an amazing offer. Total disaster. America itself is ending. Here's what you need to do about it, right? What a disastrous thought. And it hit everything. It hit gluttony. It hit greed. It hit sex. It hit desire. It hit fear, disaster, everything you can imagine. It did $556 million in one calendar year, $49 at a time.
I'm not surprised.
If you can make this hit, but try to make it hit without it, there's a certain degree of subtlety that has to be worked into offers. And this is not a copywriting class. This is a class on understanding.
It's not even a class. It's a conversation.
The conversation of understanding what motivates people to take action. Right. And that's really the thing. You can convince somebody of a thing. It doesn't mean that they're going to act on it. It's a much heavier lift to get somebody to act on an idea. But that's basically Primal Offers. And when I take the time to actually sit down and write an offer, when Emma's not screaming, I need you to write an offer by 12 o'clock,
Well, that's because you promised it on Facebook before we've even created it. And now I've got to somehow get you to write the offer. So let's be honest about whose fault
that's
is.
your problem. But when I have time,
I could write the offer
for
but
a
it's
week
not
at a
going to
time.
sell.
I can write amazing offers, and I base it all on this, along with some frameworks and some other things that I've done. And you learn an accumulation over time. But Mario Castelli, by the way, Mario's just pay attention to Mario Castelli.
I love him.
The new up and comer. I think in our
he's not
world.
new up and comer. He's hit it. He was up and coming 3 years ago, 2 years ago. He's really hit
but that's new when it comes to
Okay,
copywriting.
fair.
We're all dying. We're all 900 years old.
Yeah, he's absolutely phenomenal. Beautiful human being. We love him.
Daniel
really love
Throssell, writing email copy out of UK or Australia, I think is a brilliant guy. There's a lot of these new copywriters.
It was New Zealand.
They're coming up. Might be New Zealand. These guys that are coming up, there's a handful, but boy, there's very few,
And they understand the elements of marketing, and that's the big problem.
Of Aldo Albuquerque.
So your generation of copy, can I go on a tangent for a moment? Your generation of copywriters was looking to understand marketing and split testing and mechanisms and big ideas and product creation and delivery for full impact. Today's copywriters are looking at how does someone do all of that? And then I write the copy and I get paid $30,000 for 1 month's work. By the way, which I'm just going to sit and fuck off for a month. And then 2 days before it's time for me to deliver I might send an email asking for a week longer.
4 hours.
I didn't finish. I said 2 days before asking for another week extension because I'm deep into Reddit, understanding the emotions of the avatar, like guys. And so we spent a lot of time trying to weed through the copywriter and the copywriter, and Mario and you and Luke Mills and some of those people really understand if your copy doesn't work, you have to know how to go back and split test the different elements of your offer, all these things that you're talking about here. And if you don't understand what split testing is,
it's one of the great things about having web analytics too.
Yeah, but today's copywriter doesn't understand any of that.
If you've got Hotjar and if you've got Hotjar or Vidlytics, where you can see when people are dropping off a video sales letter, or when people are stopping reading your long form copy, or things like that, it tells you a lot.
Right.
You know what to take away. You don't necessarily know what to add.
Right.
But you oftentimes know what to take away. So much of copy, when people send me copy to review, is subtraction. I just hack giant boring chunks of copy
of nonsense,
just left, right,
nonsense
center,
of nonsense.
So
they go and they pay these people who are allegedly gurus that no one's ever heard of, who have 9-figure businesses that don't exist. Like, that's my favorite. I have multiple 8 and 9-figure businesses selling billions of dollars. Where? Link me to one running. When someone tells you that, link me to one running, or link me to the press release where you sold this company to somebody else.
Yeah, I don't think I've quite hit $1 billion yet in 200 years of doing this shit. So,
you don't.
I don't know.
In sales, you don't think? Hold on, because
I think I'm in around the $900 million range, best I can guess it.
So when last we checked, which, of course, we didn't have digital marketers numbers. We only had TNC numbers because they had to disclose. Last I checked, without DM, you were like 980. So you had to be way over $1 million with DM. We didn't have platter numbers. We didn't have...
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's been a lot.
Yeah.
There's been a lot over time.
I bet if you would have actually paid attention,
I never put anything on TV. TV would have helped me a lot. Those guys that went on TV, like Dan Kennedy's done a lot of Gunthy Rinker. That pushed his number up. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Well,
just a random tangent on copywriters.
So, hey, listen. So right now you should go to thetrainwreckshow.com and subscribe to wherever you get your podcasts, whether it be Apple or YouTube or Spotify or what have you. Get more episodes like this. These things are going to be fun. We're doing a lot of stuff. The show really changes. They're not always big, long ideas like this. A lot of times we're just got people in here beating the shit out of them. A lot of times I'm just beating the shit out of Emma. every now and then Emma's beating the shit out of me. She throws shoes at me. She does. She's
every
abusive.
episode.
She's
at the end
abusive.
of each episode,
She's a very abusive
I take
woman.
my shoes off and throw them at
She's a
them.
very abusive woman, this one. But there's all sort of, we're doing a whole segment called Boring Businesses, Big Bucks, where we talk about to people that are in like the dullest businesses I love boring businesses. Shit other people don't want to do, man.
Right.
I freaking love it. That's where the vast majority of my money comes from, that stuff, not from this stuff. This stuff is the fun part that keeps me sharp. And
this part is the part that drains all your time and keeps you from making real money.
Well, that's fair enough. But it also keeps me sharp and it keeps me relevant.
It keeps
in the
you keep,
marketplace.
yeah, exactly.
Because I'm not gonna I'll sloth off and not work.
If you're not doing
for
the
my
stuff
own
you
benefit,
love,
but if I'm doing it for somebody else, I'll bust ass to make sure you get.
Which is nuts to me.
I don't understand why it's true. I guess I really have that desire to be liked. You know?
I guess psycho.
But
maybe you should read The Courage for
show
Happiness.
Notes, by the way. If you go to
show notes are in every podcast, but also if you go to /primal.
Yeah, it's Trainwreck Show /primal, and you'll get the show notes for this, along with a GPT that I built, a custom GPT that helps you flush out potential primal elements of your offer. It's a really great GPT. I spent a lot of time training it, and it's just going to give you a bunch of suggestions of how you can press primal buttons. You can even take your offer. I wouldn't tell you to take your competitor's offer and drop it in there to see if you can make it better. I wouldn't do that, but you could, I guess, if you were that kind of person. But you could take your offer and drop it in there, and it'll tell you.
And for those of you not watching on YouTube, you got to go watch what he just did on YouTube here. You got to go see what he just did on YouTube here.
It'll tell you every place that you can get to a deeper emotional state, because really good copy hypnotizes.
Right.
It really does.
Captivates.
It puts you in a temporary suspension of belief, and you're hypnotized and open to suggestion. And you can get to that little bitty brain in the back, and you can spur those brain chemicals. You can remind a person of a happy time, and dopamine will flow in their brain. You can remind them of a very, very sad time, and cortisol will flow in their brain. Right? That's that thing we were talking about. Had you missed the girl that you didn't go ask to dance? That reminds them of a sad time, and it spurs cortisol and creates fear of missing out, FOMO. Right? So these things are all real. You're using words, man. If you think about the power of this, you're using words to control the brain chemical generation in another human's fucking brain, man. It's incredible power. You just feel you just feel like you really do.
Again, if you're not watching on YouTube, you're missing out.
You when you learn this stuff, it's scary what you can do.
Right.
I'm a old fat dude. But
you're an old, fat
turn me loose
dude.
at a bar, though, and let me talk for a minute. I can talk myself into some troubles.
I'll go ahead and make sure that I send Belle this copy so you can't go to bars anymore.
No, I mean when I go to bar with her.
Right.
I was talking about going to bar with her. 100%.
All right. www.trainwreckshow.com. Check us out.
Yeah.
Don't miss any episodes. Make sure you subscribe so that it always pings you. If you're not watching on YouTube, you miss out because Perry and his Tourette's is just
Hang out with your wang out, baby.
All right.
All right. I'll see you next time.